What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another edition of The Drive-In, where I watch recently released movies and tell you guys whether they're worth watching or worth skipping altogether. I want to talk to you guys about a brand new release that just came out in the last few weeks that everyone's been talking about recently on video on demand. That is 2020's Relic. This movie is going to be a divided opinion movie. It is one of those slow burn kind of movies that has a certain audience that people are either going to love it or hate it. It's a very divided style of film, and I want to give you guys the full breakdown on the story. I'm going to go spoiler free at first and then give you guys kind of spoilers at the end of the review to give you guys time for those of you guys that have not seen it yet. 2020's Relic was directed by Natalie Erica James, written by Natalie Erica James and Christian White, and starring Emily Mortimer, Bella Heathcote, and Robin Nevin. And it's the story of a mother and daughter who go to see the matriarch of the family as she is suffering from dementia and is slowly kind of withering away as she ages and sort of loses memory and sort of has personality, mood swings, stuff like that. As the dementia itself starts to take physical root in the old family home. So it is one of those kind of part haunted house, slow burn kind of enveloping kind of movies. But there are many good and many bad things to discuss in this movie. This is Natalie Erica James's directorial debut. It is her first major movie, feature release. And for a directorial debut, I would say overall it's really good. This movie, again, is going to be a very divided, divisive opinion where it's going to have a certain audience that loves it and a certain audience that hates it, and I fall somewhere in the middle in this case. I'm one of the rare cases of that. This is one of those slow burn movies where you've probably, if you've seen reviews of this film already on YouTube, you've heard a lot of the comparisons. You've heard Hereditary, you've heard the A24 films, you've heard of The Babadook. I'm going to bring up one that I have not heard in reviews, and that's The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, where you see an older woman whose behavior gets kind of more peculiar and creepier as it goes along, and you see her mood swings and her mood changing as things in tension ratchets up in this film, and the sound design and some of the visual effects are the stars of this film. Again, I have to shout out several things. Number one, the acting in this movie is overall very good. There are no weak links in this film. Really good all around. The three main characters that I mentioned earlier, the mother, the daughter, and the grandmother, are very, very good, especially Robin Nevin, who plays the grandmother. In something like this, where the dementia and the acting is focused on in the facial features and the mood swings and the tone of the voice and just the general creepiness of the matriarch older woman character, Robin Nevin plays this very, very well. She gets a bevy of emotions played through just by kind of standing still, changing her facials, changing her tone, jumping from one tone to another. In one scene she's very kind, in another scene she's very jovial, dancing around being happy, and another scene she's sad as she starts to kind of lose her memory and part of the dementia and loneliness sets in. In another scene she's outright angry and mad and sort of scary. So you see this wide chasm of emotions from this one character who portrays all these emotions doing very little. So big shout out to her. Also, the two stars of this film, and I couldn't find the individual credits that I wanted to give credit to in this film, but the costume designer and the person that did the effects in this film. So you see basically the dementia itself taking form in physical blackness. You see these black dots that expand and turn into just kind of a sludgy creature, both in the form of things on the windows and the walls, and also in the form of a physical black presence walking around. So the costume designer and the designer of the effects of this house did an excellent job in showing you what dementia would look like if it was a horror character in itself. So you see this dementia being shown in a highly metaphorical, highly allegorical tone, and some of that storytelling, which is very non-traditional, might be lost in the form of some viewers. I myself had to watch the film once and then go back and kind of think about it myself. I watched it with a friend of mine, so she and I talked about all the metaphors and all the things we got from it, and she and I got very different perspectives from it. And then we went and watched some reviews, and they gave us different perspectives on top of things. So this is one of those films you've got to pay very close attention to, both in the backstory and the verbiage and in the physical presence, because you get what you think kind of initially is going to be like a Babadook style demon that comes out of the walls or does your traditional jump scares, like in an Insidious kind of film, a James Wan film. But then you get that less traditionally in the form of this visage walking around. There's some dream flashbacks. There's just some black mold and soot that grows and expands as the film goes on. So your villains in this movie are not traditional beings. They are things that take place that make up for dementia in this film. So again, this story is not going to be terribly easy to follow for everyone. It is not going to be something you can just put on in the background and expect you're going to pick up. But it does do a nice job allegorically and metaphorically of connecting a very real, very familial tied disease in dementia into a horror-style demon. They tell the story very well, and again, the emotions in this film are done very well. You see the lost hope in the family at times. You see the anger of wanting to hold on to the memories. You see the grandmother character, Robin Nevin, who's, again, excellent, trying to physically write herself Post-it notes and keep around the house to remember things so she doesn't lose her memory as fast. She takes the book, the picture book they have of the family's memories, and tries to bury it in the ground to hold on to the people and things in her life for as long as she can. So there's a very real, very deep, very tied emotion in this story, which is done well. And if you can follow it, you'll connect to it very, very, very tightly. The pacing in this movie is, again, not for everyone. It is a bit of a slow burn. It's only an hour and a half runtime, and things are happening constantly, but not necessarily the things you'd expect. The progression of the characters in this film, the grandmother going from being kind of herself to being more and more lost as the film goes along, does not happen linearly. It is not a scene-by-scene progression. There's ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and it is portrayed very well, but it's portrayed in a slow manner, and some of the scenes build with tension, but do not build all the way. So you're not going to get your traditional horror film. What you do get, in addition to the set design, which is great, they chose a good location in this film, which really feels creepy, and wide hallways and dark and dank and stuff like that, your old grandmother's house. I like the location and the design, but also the sound design. For something like a slow burn with a creaky house and a lot of tension building, you want that very quiet, very booming sound, the right sound cues at the right times, stuff like that. I couldn't find the sound designer's name in this, but in the editing and sound design, they portray this house and portray this tension pretty well. So even though sometimes things aren't happening or they aren't progressing the way you might like, the sound design does make up for it with scares just in waiting for what's going to happen. So very much a Babadook kind of thing. I guess one of my negatives to this was, again, not only were things not progressing in the way you'd expect, but I think I've seen a lot of these things done better in other movies. So while they didn't have such a metaphorical overhold to them, you did see creature metaphors like depression and anxiety done better in the Babadook. I think you saw old ladies being creepy and being taken over by demons better in The Taking of Deborah Logan. That's another film this reminds me of. We saw old ladies, again, kind of going from good to bad slowly and progressing in things like M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. So I saw a lot of the things they were going for in this film done pretty well, but I've seen them all done better in recent films. So it kind of turns you off a little bit. I think what helped me was I have a nice sound bar which portrays the sound well, and I was sitting with a friend who appreciates films like this, so I was able to watch with her and analyze with her, which gave me more reason to be invested in the characters. So while the acting is good, if I hadn't had great sound and great company that invested me in the film, maybe I wouldn't have been as invested as I had in those previous films that I mentioned. By the same token, I read that Natalie Erica James not only did a good job here in her debut, but also really wanted to push the family ties and the dementia based on real life experiences in her life and her family. So she had a personal connection to this. So she chose in her directorial debut to not only go after a very deep metaphor and a very art house style task, which is tough to tackle something as tough as familial kind of breaking of the ties and generational ties and things like family disease in her first film, but she did something that was very close and personal to her and told the story based on her family's experience and her ties with her different ethnicities and stuff like that, which is a very big undertaking. So I really want to credit Natalie Erica James and her writing and directing in this debut, and she got a lot of things right in this. So again, this film is not for everyone. It does have that A24 art house style. It does have a few pacing issues, but the acting and the sound design and the message are all there for horror fans to grasp onto something with a little more meat on its bones. So all in all, I think I'm going to give this film a 6.5 out of 10. Might even bump that up to a 7 because Natalie Erica James did a great job in her debut, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next. So for spoilers, if you guys have not seen this yet, this is the end of the spoiler-free review. I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for this film. I think it's worth checking out. And if you like slow burns with bigger messages, I think you'll like this one. For spoilers, if you guys want to know what happened or if you've seen it and you're looking forward to my review, I like the ending of this film. The demon, or the demon which represents the dementia, eventually the mom and daughter have a chance to leave the house and escape the demon, the dementia, and the mom decides to stay in the house. She peels away the grandmother's face and body to reveal this blackness that was chasing the grandmother around earlier. As this blackness, the dementia, has fully enveloped the grandmother, and the mom, realizing she can't leave her matriarch, her mother, behind, stays in this house, and the daughter comes and joins them too, and they lay in bed and cuddle together as this grandmother's face and visage has been stripped away, and all they're left with is the blackness of the dementia, and the dementia grandmother, who is now changed forever, is laying with the mother and the daughter, and the mother starts to get the blackness on the back of her, signifying that dementia is hereditary and that it will be passed down to her sooner or later, but she cannot escape it. So it is a very dark but very understanding movie because family has to cling to each other and they have to stay there with each other and support each other in spite of the fact that they are hopeless in knowing that dementia has gotten the grandmother fully and will be getting the mother as well. So they leave you with a very appreciative, respectful, but also dark and kind of macabre, bleak outlook on this film, which is a nice twisted ending to a good movie. So what did you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Did you like Relic? Did you enjoy it? Did you appreciate the things that I did? And did you see kind of some of the holes that I did as well? Tell me in the comments below what you thought, and I'll be joining you guys again soon for another review for the Drive-In Today, friends. Stay scared. I'll see you soon.